Hello, my friends and fellow soul defenders. My name is Kristy, and this is Soul Bruises, a podcast devoted to taking a closer look at spiritual abuse. Whether you're a new listener or returning, I want to welcome you to a podcast that is addressing spiritual abuse out loud. Today, the Soul Bruises podcast has a guest host, and not just any guest host, but someone very special to me. Her name is Kristy Hodson. And no, I will not be interviewing myself, but the OG herself, the original Kristy Hodson. From the moment I met my twin cousin, I was fascinated by her wit, authenticity, and her unapologetic quest for truth. She is a powerhouse of honesty and curiosity, and isn't afraid to challenge the status quo. Someone who speaks with intention and listens with care. Kristy is a downright incredible human being, and I'm so excited for you to hear her voice, her story, and her heart in today's episode. Kristy is a passionate advocate for emotional and spiritual integrity. In her personal journey, she has learned to navigate the complexities of faith, family, and personal growth. Through her experiences, Kristy has unfortunately been deeply acquainted with spiritual abuse, and it's her resilience in spite of that, and the lessons she learned in her life that I think you will most relate with. We discuss numerous topics that explore the concepts of fitting in and belonging, being a rebel, personal autonomy, emotions, cognitive dissonance, being put in a box, groupthink, distorted loyalty, misplaced loyalty, generational trauma, and much more. In the end, Kristy weaves these experiences into a recipe for not only spiritual growth, but rejecting the excuses and the minimization of uncomfortable emotions. Kristy's path highlights the courageous journey she has taken in embracing uncomfortable emotions rather than avoiding them, and offering hope and insight for those seeking healing and growth. I hope you enjoy this candid conversation with Kristy Hodson. Sadly, Kristy's dad died unexpectedly shortly after this interview was recorded. This episode is dedicated to his memory. John Hodson Sr. was 73 years old. Kristy L. Hodson currently works as a hospice chaplain providing emotional, spiritual, and bereavement support. She is a graduate of Atlantic Union College, where she got a Bachelor of Science in Accounting in 2000. Liberty University, where she got a Master's in Religion and Marketplace Chaplaincy in 2013. And the Seventh-day Adventist Theological Seminary at Andrews University, where she received her MDiv with a chaplaincy emphasis in 2016. She is currently finishing a certification in interfaith chaplaincy with the Chaplaincy Institute after spending 13 years working in the fields of accounting and human resources for the radio industry in Boston, Massachusetts, and Memphis, Tennessee. Chaplain Kristy took a new path. Chaplain Kristy's ministry has led her to pastor in South Bend, Indiana, while in seminary, and then to spend 5 years as a pastor in Stoneham, Massachusetts. She was commissioned by the Southern New England Conference of Seventh-day Adventists in 2021. She next pursued advanced chaplain training, including spending 18 months in Ocala, Florida, as a hospital chaplain. Chaplain Kristy began working in hospice in early 2023, where she feels called to help people tap into their own sources of hope and to provide a comforting presence to all she meets. Chaplain Kristy enjoys reading and writing, spending time with her family, and her beloved Persian cat, Charlie. Welcome, Kristy, to the Soul Bruises podcast. I'm so excited to have you here as my guest.
I'm so excited to be here and to see you in person.
Yay! We get to do this right across the table from each other instead of like across the mile. So this is wonderful. this is a significant moment for me because I remember discussing this over a year ago. I think it might have been at Olive Garden, where I was beginning to publicly address the spiritual abuse or I was planning to publicly address the spiritual abuse that I'd been witnessed for years. And you've always been a strong advocate for those that have been harmed and such a great supporter to me personally. And so in doing this podcast, I really want to thank you for joining me. So thank you. So when I married into the Hodson family, I quickly learned that there was another Kristy Hodson.
The original.
Woohoo! OG. Beyond our shared names, with mine spelled right, of course.
You can think that.
Yeah. We share a passion for seeking truth, staying curious, and continually learning what true and authentic faith is. What immediately resonated with me was about how well read you were, your insightful perspectives, and your willingness to challenge the status quo, which is often difficult as a woman, as you've learned. So to begin, Kristy, can you share with the Soul Bruises podcast listeners a little bit about your own spiritual journey and what experiences have shaped your current understanding of faith or of your faith
Sure. And I'll start by a little spoiler alert. Those insightful perspectives, the well-readness, the willingness to challenge the status quo, those have been the most difficult part of my spiritual journey. And in the high control, closed system religion that I was a part of. So I grew up, my family has been in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We'll just start right there. Right?
Okay.
Some people know what that is. Some people think it's a cult. And I think there are some extremes that definitely can be that way.
Sure.
I don't feel like the Seventh-day Adventism that I was raised in my home was cult-like. We still were in touch with my grandfather's side of the family that was Catholic. My neighbors were of all faiths and no faiths. So we were very inclusive in our neighborhoods and weren't limited to just other Adventists. Even though for my schooling from first grade through college and then later for my master's degree have all been Seventh-day Adventist schools, including a 2-room schoolhouse.
Okay.
For first through 7th grade.
Yeah.
But my mom was a pastor's daughter and a chaplain's daughter. And in the 60s, when she was growing up and raised, it was very much appearances. So it doesn't matter what goes on in the home, it's what other people see. So that kind of came through as well in how she raised me and my brother. And my dad was kind of in and out of the faith when I was growing up. He was a Marine during Vietnam and then joined the Navy. And so for him, for a long time, God was for women and children, even though he also went through Seventh-day Adventist schools and met my mom in a high school. But he would be supportive. He would go to church with us, but he'd be watching TV on Friday nights and Sabbath when he wasn't there. But he supported my mom raising us this way. But we also saw differences in our house on how people were raised. So my dad ate meat. My mom didn't, right? So differences are okay in how I was raised. You're allowed to not interpret things the same way. But as I got out into the rest of the realm outside my house, it wasn't quite that way. Okay. There was always you need to be aware of what you're wearing. As a girl, it's your job to make sure that you control how people perceive you, especially guys. You don't, can't wear open-toed shoes because toes are going to make men think of babies, right? And joking about that. Purity culture was a big thing when I was growing up, and I know I still have major body issues and issues related to that. Even if that wasn't necessarily something in my home, it was absorbed in the teachings, right? Even now, sometimes my mom will be like, isn't that a little bit, that V-neck's a little bit too V-neck?
Yeah.
And I just used to joke that's free advertising.
Yes.
So I grew up in this faith and these church schools. And as a young person, I wanted to be involved. And there were times where I didn't feel that what I had to bring to the table was important. I totally know now I am tone deaf. I should not be singing up front, right? But it was a talent show for the church. And this is one of like my core memories.
Oh, interesting.
And so I went and I sang, and I was elementary school at most because I went up to boarding school for high school. And the pastor afterwards, and I sang a song, and the pastor afterwards said, it's maybe you shouldn't ever do that again. Oh, no. At least that's how I remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How old were you?
I was under the age of 10.
Okay.
And apparently, I was just telling my mom the story. I never told her.
Wow.
Or she didn't know.
Was this not done in front of her?
Apparently not.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so there was always something of it's how people see you, what you're wearing, what you actually believe is irrelevant. It's what they think you believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
In 6th grade, I think, is when we did baptismal classes. That was our Bible study. That was our Bible class in the pastor's office. Yep. And so after that, you get baptized. So I was baptized at the age of 10. That's just kind of how it was. Mm-hmm. And I was always kind of, we'll use the word rebellious, because I didn't understand the traditions of the faith that I felt were, what's the word? They just didn't make sense to me for some of them. Some of them I understood. So if you know anything about Adventism in, I'd say pre-2000s, and even some now, it's adornment. You need to look, you don't want to bring attention to yourself. So women look frumpy because you don't want to bring attention to yourself. Makeup wasn't really allowed, nail polish, jewelry. And I have always had a love for jewelry. And I will admit that at one point in time, I was shoplifting clip-on earrings because my mom wouldn't buy them for me.
Of course, right?
Right? And I think lipstick too. And that one I got caught on. But
yeah.
Okay. I do not have a record.
You just got out of jail this year? Is that? Yeah.
That's
okay.
it. Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
And I couldn't understand why that was not acceptable, but you could wear a brooch the size of your face and a very loud scarf or have a Rolex watch, and that was okay. But me having a pair of $10 clip-on earrings was bad.
So I have a question already, and it's not a one that I even planned on asking you, but I'm hearing you say that performance was a big deal. What was on the outside was a big deal. But then when it came to the actual adornments, those were not like allowed to happen. So like, how as a 10-year-old is that supposed to even make sense?
Well, it's not. Yeah. Because you're not supposed to think that critically about it.
But you were a critical thinker.
Yes. So my parents have always been big readers, always encouraged it. I was the kid who, when they went to the room and was punished, get sent to your room, I'd find a book or find something to entertain myself. And my parents were like, it's time to come out now. And I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So I was always reading. Yeah. And that can unleash critical thinking and imagination. And wow, these things that I'm reading, their life is so different. They don't have these weird rules that don't make sense. And so I recognized this cognitive dissonance pretty early on.
Can you explain a little bit about cognitive dissonance?
Yeah. So it's kind of that idea of you maybe know one thing and then you're doing something that's in violation of that. So it's the opposite effect. So there's this gap between what you know and how you live.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I could see it. So like Halloween, most Adventists didn't do Halloween, it's all devil, whatever. Yeah. My mom loved Halloween. So we always did Halloween, even if it was just in our own house, in our own neighborhood, but you don't talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Because you need to hide these aspects of yourself that make someone judge you that you weren't righteous enough or you would need to be corrected. And again, that was part of her upbringing. She grew up in a fishbowl, basically being a pastor's daughter. And that's difficult. And that kind of carries on through.
And for all you pastor daughters and sons out there, you know exactly what she's talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you can't be a child because you're a representation of your parents.
Quite a lot of pressure.
So that was part of it. And I also didn't have good experiences in my faith-based schools. I was bullied quite a bit. My brother was one of my bullies at school. Yeah. And so, he went to boarding school and then left when it was my turn to go to boarding school and went to another school. So we spent a good 8 years not going to school together. And that was very healthy for us. But I had a horrible year in 8th grade, bullied by mean girls. And how can a school that is based on faith, and you're supposed to be bringing up good citizens of God, not intervene when they know bullying happened?
Yeah.
And like they knew.
Yeah.
My 8th grade teacher tried to protect me and provide safe spaces for me. But
not stop the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you feel like you had any other kids that understood you or you could connect with? Or did you feel like you were all alone?
I think in elementary school, my best friend was my neighbor who lived across the street. Mm. They didn't go to church. Mm-hmm. So super supportive, loved doing things together. I had a couple church friends, but most of my support when I was younger was people who were not a part of our church.
Okay.
And as I got older and after college, it's been the exact same way.
Interesting. Okay.
My biggest support has always been from people outside the denomination. Mm. It's the people inside the denomination who say that I am not doing what I need to do to fit in. Mm. You're being rebellious. Sometimes I wore that proudly. I don't anymore, but and we'll get to that.
Yes, we definitely will. Because there's this, you're definitely not a status quo person.
No.
I've only known you for, 10? No, probably. Oh, has it already been 20-something years?
Probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
But even I know in the last 20 years, you're not status quo. And I've just always appreciated that, but not always appreciated if you don't fit some sort of mold for somebody, for sure.
Right.
Okay.
And so, again, the way that the Adventist Church is, though, it's very, you need to fit this mold. Mm. We love our check sheets to know that we're doing what we're doing right. Yeah. Yeah. And if you don't fit that check sheet, you either have to hide a piece of who you are or you need to change because you need to fit in. Because in my experience, it is a knowledge-based faith.
Okay.
It is not, this is my experience with God. Maybe it is for some people. Yeah. This is how my faith is impacting me. It's about knowing the right texts, the right doctrines, and being right. Okay. It's not about this is how God is showing up for me in mystical experiences. Oh my goodness. You might as well burn you as a witch.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are not allowed.
Okay.
So it's all about what you know. Okay. And part of that has to do with when the church was formed. It was formed during a time after the Second Great Awakening in the 1840s through 1860s, where you convinced people by debating. So it's all about having the right debate answers. Okay. And so I think that's why there's such focus on doctrine and proof texts and knowledge versus experience.
Okay. Is it just I think we're going to get into this later too, but it's almost like the emotions scare people.
Yes, because the heart is deceitful among all things.
Oh, that was a tough one to understand, right?
Right. And Adventists love their proof text. They'll pull something out, whether it's in context or not. Yeah. And sometimes they are 100% valid, right? And sometimes it's like, wow, you're trying to manipulate me with a proof text. Or an Ellen White quote, one of the founders of the church, I've seen her used on people who I know have extreme faith and are very into and have the best intentions. And it's used to shut down critical thinking and discussion. Yeah. Yeah. If someone's like, oh, well, I wonder if something could be interpreted this way. Like, well, Ellen White said this. Yeah. To shut you down. So there is very much critical thinking is not it.
Well, it's a control mechanism. If they can shut down your critical thinking, especially as a young person, they can get you there. Then they can maybe get you for the rest of your life. Yeah.
So I'll share another story about that in high school. Yeah. So I went to a boarding school about 4 hours away from home. And it was one of the more liberal boarding schools. Like, boys and girls could hold hands. They no longer had separate sidewalks. We could have radios. I smuggled in caffeinated coffee, just labeled it decaf, and introduced people to coffee for the rest of their lives when I was 14 years old, which my father helped me with.
Oops, Dad's in trouble.
Yeah, he was always rebellious. Which maybe that's where I get it from. But so we could have music. Yeah. I was a big 90s grunge, rock, all that kind of stuff. And is also enjoyed listening to music that my dad grew up on. So I had my CD player and I took some of his CDs, like Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin, along with my own Offspring and Metallica CDs and that kind of stuff. And one day, the deans kind of, I guess we went too far. We must have put something on our answer machine because we had answer machines.
Yes.
And I think I had an Offspring song on there with me and my roommate.
Yeah. Google those for anybody under, 15?
Yeah. Pretty fly for a white guy.
Yes.
And so the dean's like, this is not appropriate. We are going to confiscate your stereo system and we're going to confiscate all your CDs. Oh, wow. Right? Because they had that power. They were in charge. And they called my mom. Because I think, so my dad was in the Navy when I was growing up. So he might have been deployed or somewhere, I don't know. But my mom was the one who came up. And they called her and they're like, look, we've confiscated your daughter's stuff. If you can take it back home, but you need to come to the dean's office and get it. And my mom drove 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
To come up. I think it was on a weekend. And by this time, was she living in Massachusetts? I don't remember. But anyway, she came up.
Yeah.
And she was talking to the deans and looking through the CDs that I had. And she was seeing the Janis Joplin, the Jimi Hendrix. And she's like, well, thank you very much. These are my husband's CDs.
Shoot.
Right?
Shoot.
So, I know this music is okay because my family listens to it.
Yeah.
And then when the deans said, I asked them, why can I not have these CDs? Because I want to know what I did wrong.
Absolutely.
Because this is okay at home. Yeah. Yes, I know there's different rules at school, but tell me, I want to know why.
Yeah.
Because then maybe I'll follow the rule. I need to know my personality. I need to know why this is important. What's the motivation behind it? Because my family taught me principles, not rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they said, well, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, they did drugs. And we don't want people who did drugs and you looking up to them as a status symbol. And so I said to them, but I can have an Elvis CD, right?
Shoot.
And they're like, of course you can have Elvis. He does gospel music.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, he also did drugs.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he died that way, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but they didn't see the disconnect.
Yeah.
And to me,
do you remember what their response was to that?
They just kind of waved me off.
Yeah.
From what I remember. Like, oh.
Because they probably didn't believe he did drugs.
Or it challenged that cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
That they had it challenge their thinking.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to make a list of these are the bad bands, these are the good bands.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just follow and they did have a list.
Oh, wow.
Of, you shouldn't have these people, like no Marilyn Manson, no.
Yeah.
But he wasn't on that list. Like Elvis wasn't on that list, but that's why they're on the list.
Shoot.
And so that's me at 16, 17 years old. Explain it to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't just give me a trite answer. Make me understand.
But you basically just got shut down. Yeah.
And I feel like that has often been the response of the church system I was in. And I've described it as, I think I had a fairly balanced family system growing up, but it was overarched with an enmeshed system of the church.
Yeah. Because you had relative, your grandparents were
in ministry,
pastor and a pastor's wife. And that can be tricky.
And if that's your schooling, that's your church. We did Pathfinders, which is like the Boys and Girl Scouts version in the church. And if that's a big part of your life, it really becomes, it's like another family member in that enmeshed family system. Yeah. So that's where I'm like, okay, I'm going to challenge, because I was taught to challenge and understand. My parents did not always have a good experience growing up with the way the church treated them. I felt like they were hit over the head with things. So they wanted me to understand principles. Yeah. And shame on them. Because I learned to think for myself.
I was going to say, thank goodness they did that for you, because look where you are now. You're so wise. Yes, yes.
So then I was able to develop values.
Yeah.
Of my own core values. And with my family, they've always been around people of all different faiths and nationalities and cultures. Always. Yeah. Because they both worked outside of the church system.
Yes.
And wanted to be a part of that.
Yes, yes.
So I had that built into my value system, and I would question, does this go along? Sometimes.
Yep.
And then it might be a long time before I learned to or realize that there was something that maybe should be questioned.
Yeah.
Right. And remember, growing up the whole time, it was, this is the church with the truth. The tests at the end of time, you're going to be asked about whether the Sabbath, that's going to be a big saving thing. What you believe, have an answer always ready for what you believe. And it's based on what you know and believe that your salvation is going to be based on.
Yeah.
And it's okay if other people don't believe what you believe. We can still befriend them, but you're held to the light through which you have received.
Yeah.
That's like a big Adventist phrase. So you've received this light, so you can't go anywhere else because then you are abandoning this. So like changing to a different church or whatever wasn't even in the realm of idea. And most people, even I would say in my experience that I know, if they stopped being Seventh-day Adventists, they didn't find another church home. And then it's assumed that you've abandoned God. And so that's the pressure too that the parents are feeling. So you need to fit in, you need to show them, even if we know better, you need to show them that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they don't want you to be hurt by the system by them expressing, what they're actually going through. But at the same time, there's been no space for them to do that. In turn, there's no space for you to do that in the system either.
Right.
And luckily you had that space at home, I know that, I remember when I was younger, having the right answers. I was always hoping that somebody wouldn't ask me what my religion was about because I didn't have all the right answers perfectly wrapped up in a bow. And I was so nervous that I would get it wrong instead of, at some point in my life, my faith became part of my heart and, it was easier to reflect that. But yeah. Anyway, so it was the more like, I don't know the answers. Yeah.
Right. Because if it's knowledge-based, if you have to have certainty.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that. And then I went through college. I made it through an Adventist college without taking a single religion course.
How in the world did you do that?
Because I was in an honors program because you have to perform and, I'm brilliant. So,
yes.
That's how you prove your worth is, you're smart. I always was told I was smart. I appreciate that it wasn't always about body because that's what I thought that was, with the purity culture, that's what your body's for. But my mind. So my parents always said, smart. And so you got to live up to that, right? And I will admit, things come pretty easily to me. So I was in an honors program, and that meant instead of taking 4 religion courses, you would only need to take 2, instead of 1 a year. And I took ethics courses.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. Which is right up my alley anyway. But that was part of my rebellion, right? Let me find a way around the system because should you be mandating this for people? Right? Again, thinking, how can I get around the system because I feel like it's too strict?
Okay.
So I was doing that in college.
Was there any part of you that felt guilty that you were rocking the boat a little bit? Or is that just kind of, you felt like that was really truly who you were and you're just living out who you...
I think for some of it was you grow into this persona. I've been told I was rebellious, wine to earrings. I probably one of the biggest disappointments of my mother's life is when I went behind her back and got my ears pierced at 16, right? We joke about it now.
Yeah.
But I did that. And she's like, why would you put holes in your body? And this is to tell you the type of kid I was. I was like, how do you know that Eve didn't have pierced ears and sin closed the holes?
Oh, shoot. That's a good joke.
So that's literally what I would say.
You get these comebacks. These are amazing.
Yeah. So. I can rationalize many things.
I love it.
So that's the personality that I had. And then you lean into it. Our family is a family of jokesters. So it's really easy. You learn to do the comebacks and that kind of stuff, right? But also I knew there were people in my family who weren't churchgoers or were in and out. And that on my dad's side, my mom's side, everyone was super either working for the church system or very big into that.
Yeah.
Also, in college, I didn't take any religion courses, studied accounting and English, went to work for a radio company as an accountant and was with them for like 12 years or so. And one of my thought processes was, I want to go get real world business experience and bring it back to the church because they have pastors doing business jobs and hospitals are closing, conferences are mismanaging money, schools are closing because they're putting someone in a position because of their title, not because of their experience.
Skill. Or yeah.
Right? Because while I was in college, my senior year of college, the big hospital in Stone, Massachusetts closed. And like I had friends who never got paid their last paycheck because that closed. And so I'm like, okay, so you don't have the right people who have the right business skills doing things in businesses that are associated with the church. Let me go get real world and bring it back. So even though I had stopped going to church by then, moved out of the dorms, kind of doing my own thing, I still wanted to be able to give back and be like, this is let me see if I can fix the system.
Okay. How old were you at this point?
So I was that was in 2000. So like 22 years old.
Okay.
When that happened. And then went and worked for a radio company, and I love my heathens there.
Yeah.
So because it was in, Boston.
Yes.
So I don't know that anybody I worked with went to church. Maybe a few did. But again, that just reiterated to me that there are supportive people, good people in every walk of life. Just because you drink or go out or eat this or don't eat that, it doesn't make you a bad person.
And that wasn't necessarily a culture shock to you because your parents had been around other people and you knew you weren't so sheltered that you got outside the church and were like, you weren't surprised by that.
Right. And I did an internship for 2 years under a DJ over there. So I was like, babysit your kid while the strippers come in the office type thing. Yeah. So I was exposed little by little to a little bit more. I mean, I wasn't exposed to strippers growing up, but I was in my 20s from this internship, right? Just getting to know real people. And again, seeing, hey, wait, they're talking about their kids and their nieces and their nephews. You are a whole person. You are not just this piece of you that I'm focusing on. You are not your job. You are not who you're dating. You are not the band that you are in. You are a human being. You put your pants on one leg at a time like I do.
Yeah.
And that working there also helped me see that no one is better than anyone else. This rock star should want to meet me as much as I want to meet them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so I worked for them for a long time, ended up going down to Memphis, working for them. And I was the controller, 6 radio stations down there. I was also the local HR. So if people were going to rehab, because this is the industry we're in, they would come to my office. I was in charge of firing people.
Oh, shoot.
And sometimes we had to do mass firings just because of budget cuts, and I would help make those decisions. I had someone cry tears of joy in my office at being fired.
Okay.
Because they were working for a horrible boss who was a manager.
Yeah.
They were bound by their contract.
Yeah.
And now we paid them to leave.
Wow.
It just became a really hostile work environment.
Okay.
And I started thinking, okay, there are all these people who I'm there to make money for them.
Yeah.
And they're mistreating their sales employees, their DJs, the people who make them the money.
Yeah.
There's a problem.
Yeah.
Because I still have this value system, right? About what I think is right and wrong, regardless of where I'm at, and even whether I'm doing something that I think is right or wrong. Yeah. Because I may think something's wrong, but still do it because I'm human.
Yeah. Really? I don't know. You have that picture of you and Tom Brady, so maybe you are.
I do.
Maybe you are superhuman.
That was pre-kids. He made a bad decision, man.
Yeah, shoot.
Who knows? I think I dodged
what
that
could
bullet.
have been. Yes.
So I had people in Memphis that would come to my office and pray, because in Memphis, everyone went to church.
Bible Belt.
Yeah. So, you're going to your Catholic church. I met some of the most devout Catholics down there. people who were singing in the church choir, even though they were part of the LGBT community. And to what extent they had to hide it for church, I don't know, but they were up there singing in the choir because that's what their faith demanded of them.
Yeah.
Because they were living out their faith.
Yeah.
It was just part of your everyday.
Mm-hmm.
Where when I was in Boston, if I told someone, oh, what did you do this weekend? I went to church. I'd be like, you didn't want to share that. Because how would you be judged? Because it's what people think of you and the judgments they make of you.
Okay.
And God forbid the authentic you is someone they don't like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So then when I was in Memphis, this was really starting to bother me. This hostile work environment, the not taking care of employees. And I was like, I need to do something different. And so I called my grandfather. The one, he was a hospital chaplain for well over 40 years. He was a church pastor for about 8 years. Previous to that, he had been in the Navy. He was a Catholic who became Adventist when my mom was 3 and then wanted to go into ministry. And he was very much abused by the system. 60s and 70s and 80s were not good. A lot of misuse of power. And you're the little peon. And so I talked to him a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Amazing man of faith. And we talked about, in my life, people seem to be comfortable talking to me. I have a comforting presence. People open up.
Yeah.
Like someone, first time meeting them, they might tell me their whole life story.
Yeah.
Just something about me puts people at ease. Yep. And I tend to see people with mental or emotional challenges are drawn to me for some reason. And I think it's just because I see them as people, not their challenges. Yeah. And it's always been that way. Because again, that was another population that my parents had friends with disabilities. We hung out with them. Yeah. They're kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not a kid with they're kids. Let's not label them. So you see them for who they are. And so I talked to him and I said, well, maybe chaplaincy is what I need to do. And he's like, just make sure whatever boundaries you have on your faith and what you want, you stay true to it. And told a story of how he was taking a class that was run by someone else. And he told them, hey, I need to leave by Friday night so that it's, by sundown Friday, because I'm not going to work on the Sabbath. And he's like, and the teacher's like, well, if you walk out the class, you'll get an F. And he was prepared to do it. And then the first time it happened, came to that Friday night, the teacher's like, well, Leo's got to go. So I guess we're ending class early. But he's like, you need to be willing to put your values and your faith on the line and tell, and live that out. Because you have to be able to live with yourself. Yeah. Yeah. And so I started thinking about some of that. And again, so that's part of that value system that has carried me through and caused me to be troublesome because I'm going to hold up to a value. And so I started taking classes online at Liberty University for a marketplace chaplaincy and did that, finished that up when I got moved back up to Boston for a little while, still doing the accounting work full-time, this part-time. And I was just about to graduate and I went to my conference president. His wife knew my mom. They were nurses together. So I made an appointment and said, hey, I'm finishing a chaplaincy degree. Is there a job that I could maybe do here? He laughed at me and said, why would we have something for you? Ouch. We don't hire chaplains. I don't know where you would go to get a chaplain job. Maybe if you want to go to Ohio and work at one of the hospitals over there, but here talk to Adventist Chaplaincy Ministries. They work with all the chaplains, but you're never going to get hired here. Wow. And at that time, I think maybe in the history of the Southern New England Conference, there had been 1 to 2 women pastors ever employed.
Wow. Can you explain a little bit about what a conference president is? For those that aren't familiar with the Adventist system.
So they're kind of set up in regions.
Okay.
And so the Southern New England Conference would cover Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Okay. And so the president is in charge of all the pastors, all the operations, kind of like a regional person. And the way the church structure goes, it's your local church talks up to a conference that will then talk up to a union, which is a bigger geography. and there's several conferences in the union. And then it goes into a division, so like North America. And then you have the huge corporate umbrella headquarters.
Okay.
So that's kind of where that is at.
Thank you.
And then I talked to the people at Adventist Chaplain Ministries, decided that I was feeling called to follow and try military chaplaincy. I was just within the age cutoff to start seminary. And I was originally going to go to a local seminary here because they said you need a master's of divinity, which I had been directed against when I did my online courses, because again, that's a Southern Baptist school.
Yeah,
so why would we direct women to masters of divinity if we can direct them to a smaller master's that doesn't count, right? And I was called a cult member when I was taking those classes, but whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. But they liked the way that I wrote. So even when they didn't agree with something, they're like, well, you did the work and you get an A, but I disagree. And that was fine. I was used to people disagreeing with me. And so I packed up and went to Michigan because if it wasn't an Adventist seminary, it was not going to count for Adventist Chaplain Ministries, especially where I didn't take any religion classes in college.
Ah, shoot.
And
so
came
back to bite you.
I had to be properly indoctrinated in how to be an Adventist minister. And so I was a Navy chaplain candidate, got commissioned into that within the first month of me going up to Andrews University. Spent 3 years living there, getting my master's of divinity with a concentration in chaplaincy, and then needing to work as a pastor for 2 years after that before I could transition into being an official Navy chaplain and going active duty or reserve. And in the meantime, like in the summers, I would do trainings with the military. Either we did one in Newport, Rhode Island for officer school, did some chaplain school training. After I graduated, spent 2 weeks aboard an aircraft carrier, just kind of learning all that. Nice. So that was kind of where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And the reason why that was so appealing to me is I said, I want to work with people who would never step foot inside a church.
Why was that important to you?
Because I figured if people already have a church, they should have the support they need there, right? Or they already have their views or what they think the right answers are. So they already have the help. So let me help people who maybe would never walk inside a church and just be there for them. I never wanted to convert anybody. Evangelism is something that I hate, which is exactly what a pastor is not supposed to hate, right?
Such a catchphrase.
Yeah. Because who am I to tell you that your beliefs are wrong?
Right.
I don't want you telling me mine are wrong.
Right.
So again, that goes back. So evangelism goes against my grain. And so I was without a job for a good, May, June, July, August, 5 months. Again, it was a different conference president this time and director. And I think maybe some people behind the scenes were helping pressure to get me hired because you just need to hire her for 2 years. We'll help you out with salary because at the time, I think it's still now, they're trying to hire women pastors. So you'll get a price break on the salary, and the division and the conference and the union will help pay if you hire a woman for the first 3 years. And so I think there was some maneuvering back around. They're like, oh, we're going to hire you. We don't know when yet, when you'll start. So I spent months not going to get a part-time job because I wasn't sure when I'd be getting in. And so I ended up in September of 2016 starting to work as the associate pastor of a church north of Boston, and was also supposed to split my time with the school that was a part of that church, which at the time was preschool through 12th grade. The administration at the school didn't like being told that I was supposed to work with them and did not make space for me, to the point where when the Bible teacher was going to be gone, because he was also the basketball coach, I was the 5th person they thought of to substitute teach his class.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think that was a gender thing?
Yes.
Okay. I wondered what the catch was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there are still many people who do not think women should be in ministry in the Adventist church. So that was one of the big barriers. And at first there was a little honeymoon period at the church because I had been a member there. My dad's grandparents helped build that church. My brother and sister-in-law got married in that church. There's people who knew my family. They knew me. I'd been the treasurer of the church for a little while. And coming back, so I had a little group of support, which was essential. I have female pastor friends who did not. And it was devastating. But that honeymoon period not always last, right? And the administrators did not know how to talk to a female pastor, especially one with opinions. And at one point, they even said, "We don't know how to talk to you." So they brought in someone
as if you're
else.
some sort of alien or something.
Right. Right. I would ask the same question a male pastor would ask, and I would get a talking to afterwards for being confrontational. If I said, "Hey, we were talking about doing this program about bringing in women speakers for something, but I was getting some pushback." The word pushback was labeled militant. But then when they used it 2 minutes later after telling me I was militant, said, "But that's not militant." But then I was confrontational.
Talk about more cognitive dissonance.
Right.
Right?
And, they'd be like, "Oh, someone said we get an anonymous email about you, but we don't worry about those, so don't worry." And then it was brought up later, "Oh, but this anonymous email about you, about that the church wouldn't be okay with women pastors," even though they were. There were some didn't. The church that I was at had a wonderful spectrum of super conservative. They'd rather fast than have to buy something on Sabbath if something happened, or people who are buying their Dunkin' Donuts and bringing it in on Saturday morning. There was a huge, vast mix, and it was ethnically mixed, socioeconomically mixed, and religious perspectives mixed, all in the Adventist church. But they thought it was super conservative because that's the loudest voices who would complain.
Okay.
Right. So they wouldn't come to the church to look. They would just list that. But they said, "Oh, but we don't listen to an anonymous email." But then that was used later.
I think that's so dangerous. Anonymous stuff.
So that was hard. But I'm like, hey, this is 2 years. It's no big deal. The senior pastor left. I was told that I would not be in the running to be the main pastor of that church, even though I ran it for a year and a half, I think, or at least a year by myself. I was never up for that because women were not main pastors. And so, but it was getting close to this 2 year thing. I'm like, okay, 2 years, fine. And I was getting ready, just going through all my physicals again with the Navy. Found out that I was pre-diabetic. They did a blood sugar test and it was 101. And because that was on my record, I became ineligible.
Oh, shoot, for the Navy.
Oh, wow. And didn't know what to do. This is what I expect to do. I don't want to work for the church. They're meanies, right? They don't know how to treat their workers. They run them ragged. They don't like women. I think I'm trying to fix it from within, but I'm getting tired. Didn't know what to do. Then I was like, okay, went up, spent some time with a friend who's a social worker, crying on her couch. One of the conference officials who was filling in, he came out of retirement to fill in, called me because I told him what happened. He's like, "I'm so sorry. We see God working in you. You have a home with us for as long as you need. We like what you're doing." I was connecting with youth. I made a way for myself in that school. I would have lunch with the kids because they wouldn't let me do anything else.
That's big.
Right?
Quality time.
So I'm like, all right, I don't have to worry about paying my bills. I don't have to worry about providing a life for my cat. We're all good. Right. Then I got a call from the Adventist Chaplaincy Institute or Adventist Chaplaincy group who said, "Hey, we were just in a meeting with a lot of endorsers and the Air Force is willing to look at you. They don't think your blood sugar will be a problem." And so I started filling out paperwork for them. And then I was at a pastor's retreat and broke my elbow. Now, normally broken elbow, whatever, people heal, right? First broken bone in my life. And I severely dislocated my elbow, shattered my radial head into 3 pieces. So I have a fake one in. And there's a extensive soft tissue damage so that it has now been over 6 years and it has not healed.
Oh, wow.
Fully. So like anything with pressure hurts. Can't do a push-up to save my life without pain. Can't even cut a bagel without pain. And so I would not meet the physical standards. The Air Force had said, give us a call when you heal and we'll resume.
Mm-hmm.
I never healed.
Mm.
So military done. And I also at that time was praying and saying, God, if this is not what I'm supposed to be doing, let something happen that stops it, but not because of something that's my fault. So like, don't let me not get into the military because I can't run run fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because then that's my own personal failure.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha.
I'm giving this to you. If there's something where I'm not supposed to, if there's another path for me or whatever, have it be something that I have no control over that makes it not happen.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently I'm stubborn because I thought, if it's not the Navy, then maybe it's the Air Force. And then I had to break my arm.
Oh, shoot. And how did you break your arm? Was it dodgeball or something?
It was dodgeball. I was going to stop. They had just redone the floor.
Yes.
I kind of tripped and basically half punched a wall to stop myself.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And you don't heal.
Wall 1, Kristy 0.
Yeah. And after 40, you do not heal the way that you used to.
Shoot.
Yeah. My niece ended up fracturing her elbow a little bit later. She's fine.
Oh, man. But the elbows are tricky, though.
Yeah. So I stayed on at the church, needless to say. Ended up working there for a total of 5 years. I feel like I was well loved by most of the congregation. There were some that still had problems with women.
Sure.
There were people who would call the conference every time I wore pants because that's not women. It's not what women are supposed to do. So again, it's those traditions that don't make sense. And I'm like, I'm on a raised platform. I like a lapel mic so I can walk around. So having something to clip it onto, because I'm not going to clip it onto my bra or my underwear or whatever.
Right.
I don't want anyone to do an upskirt of me.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the modest thing to do. And I was getting like nice suits from Ann Taylor. I wasn't just like wearing jeans, right?
Yeah.
And they would call the conference and complain about what I was wearing to the point where I was brought in several times to talk about. And we need to like kind of being brought to the principal's office for having dress code issues for wearing pants while I was preaching on the pulpit. And I said to him, because he was like, and I'm like, this is the modest thing.
Yeah.
If your concern is modesty, this is it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So again, this is where are you coming from? People are upset and they think it's cross-dressing from whatever and whatever. Back when both men and women wore dresses, right? Yep. These were bought in the women's department, right? And they brought me in. And at one point I said to them, would you rather them, I'm like, either they really want to check out my legs. Yeah. And that's why they want me to wear a dress. Do you think they'd be more offended by me wearing pants or seeing the tattoos that I have on my ankles?
Oh, wow.
Because that's another, I've always loved tattoos. And I got my first one right out of high school and have gotten them throughout my life. Yeah. And my local church knew I had them because occasionally I would wear a skirt if I was not up front or whatever. So they knew. And some of them loved it. And then he's like, he didn't know what to say. Yeah. But it was interesting. And it's again, you don't fit our box of what people need. Yeah. And it just made me think of the other thing with that, you don't fit our box. And my mom growing up a pastor's kid. One of the things that she always said to us of why we shouldn't do something, right? So like we could do it at home, but maybe not out there. So like I could wear a toy necklace at home, but not outside because you don't want to be a stumbling block to someone else. That was the big thing. Well, if they see you do it, then they might think it's okay. Well, maybe it is okay. Yeah. So you don't want to be a stumbling block. So in that way, that verse has been weaponized to keep people in place to fit in when they shouldn't. Yes. Right? Yeah. And so I even had when I was interviewing for pastor jobs, and I have a tattoo on my arm of an ohm, and they're like, well, what if you have a 7-year-old kid come up to you and say, Pastor Kristy, you have a tattoo and I want one too. What are you going to say to them? As if I should be ashamed that I have it. Yeah. I said, I tell them to come back to me when they're 18 because no one's going to give a 7-year-old a tattoo. Right. Do you see how
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And you knew this because you'd been
Yeah.
out of the bubble,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, the things that they were afraid of,
Yeah.
to me, made no rational sense.
And you needed them to make rational sense because your critical mind needed that.
Mhm.
It required it.
Yeah.
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 But as I worked those last 3 years for the conference, it just got more and more issue about me showing up. I'm an advocate for the LGBT community, so there was always something like that in my sermons. I spoke up for Black Lives Matter in my sermons, talked about that, and not in a super political way, but acknowledged
in a human way.
In a human way. And again, I had a mixed congregation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to show that I at least can connect on some level and that I'm aware of what's going on and affecting your lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it won't matter what you say behind the pulpit if they don't trust you or know that you have their
And those
back.
are my actual beliefs, so I'm not going to hide them either. This is who I am.
Yeah.
And so some people didn't like that either.
Mm-hmm.
And it just got more and more challenging. There was more and more issues of unacceptableness for women. I would ask, so I was on the track for what I call ordination light, because there's a sexist view of ordination in the Adventist Church. They don't officially ordain women. They commission them, which is a lesser acknowledgement and actually reduces the things that you can do pastorally. And then you're only bound to your local conference and no one else has to acknowledge it.
Oh, wow.
Where with ordination, it's a worldwide acknowledgement. And I asked, hey, all these guys that I've been in this training class with has been ordained. And I thought it was like kind of a 5-year process. So where am I in that process?
Yeah.
And I was penalized for even asking the question. Wow. How dare I?
Ooh. And
the way that we do ordination, it's an acknowledgement of the Holy Spirit's work in you, working through you. Yeah. It does not imbue you with any special powers. It's not the same type of ordination that maybe the Catholic Church does. It's we see God using you. And this was, hey, we took time to evaluate and see. And how dare I ask? Oh, wow. So I was just too in your face, too aggressive. Yeah. Yeah. And how dare I challenge?
Almost like they were trying to take the place of the Holy Spirit, make definitely. That decision for you. I mean, how dare you ask, but how dare they say that back, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it became all about power.
Yeah.
And definitely saw that after I left the church and started working as a chaplain, where I had my credentials withheld because I won't give free labor as an elder in a church where they have to have power over me, because they don't require that for men. And there's a different standard.
Yeah.
So I was denied because I'm not a man.
Shoot. I have a friend that's a theology professor, and she feels like many of these colleges are doing women disservice by even encouraging them to join the theology department. Because in the end, this is often the result.
Yeah, they want your money, but they don't want your work. And
that was her whole point.
I had a friend who I went to seminary with who went to seminary because they saw in this church paper a call for women pastors.
Yeah.
She got there and we went to school and they didn't. Mm-hmm. They don't want women pastors who will speak up, who will advocate for themselves, who will advocate for the lesser, who will push the status quo.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And they won't re-educate conferences.
Shoot.
That's a whole, in local congregations, that's a whole nother thing that, like, there's been lawsuits in other countries because of it. That thankfully the woman pastor won. Yes. But it's just all of that mess. So I ended up finally getting commissioned as I was applying to leave. And I think that was their send-off present to me, knowing that it really didn't matter because no one had to recognize it outside of them.
Yeah.
And
tell me how that showed up in an announcement because there was 4 of you guys, right? And,
yes.
And this might not seem like a big deal, but when you said it, it was like, it would have made me upset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I call it being asked to promote my own discrimination.
Such a great way.
So it took me a while to find the words, and I'm so thankful for I was taking clinical pastoral education at the time with an interfaith group who there were no Adventists in there. I love non-Adventists so much. And again, they were so validating, more so than my colleagues, and helped me find the words for the toxic system and the emotional and spiritual abuse that was going on. But, they put out flyers of commissioning of Kristy Hodson, and there were 3 other guys who were in my thing that were getting ordained, and I was getting commissioned. And they, their big promotion to hear their ordination, whatever. And I even just, struggled with whether I should accept being commissioned or not. I know friends who didn't because they're like, we're not going to play the game. Yeah. But I also felt like it was important. And it also helped other people see who had been to ordination services, who went to commissioning services and saw that there was nothing different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there shouldn't be anything different. But afterwards, when they were promoting it in social media, during the program, they said, thank you to this church for letting us use your church. It was my church. Like, I was the associate pastor of that church and had been. But, maybe you're just being kind and nice because you're the visiting whatever. And they had, had a message that was not tailored to me at all and said, now that you're doing ministry, people are going to be toxic to you. And I'm just laughing, saying, yes, because you have been. But I don't think they ever called me a pastor during that ceremony. It wasn't until I think I was leaving that I was called a pastor by the upper people in my own congregation, to my own congregation. And then online, they would, do, hey, we ordained so-and-so. Here's some pictures of the thing. We're so proud of Pastor so-and-so of XYZ church being ordained. And it was kind of like copy and paste for these 3 gentlemen. Yeah. That's what it was. And then I looked at mine. Yeah. Yeah. And it said something about commissioning the ministry of Kristy. I was not called a pastor. Thank you for this church for letting us use their facility. Didn't say I was a pastor of that church. Nothing. And I actually sent screenshots to the president who was in charge of the social media and said, what's up with this? Completely ghosted.
So someone who doesn't know your character would think that what you're saying is like, well, they didn't recognize me. I want to be called pastor. I want to be acknowledged this. It could come across as like,
I'm conceited. It's okay.
No, this is not the point I want to make is that that's not your character at all. And people who know you know that you are trying to work with the system at the same time being bullied on the side, being marginalized on the side. And yet, when it came down to public recognition, they could pull off something like that at the risk of you saying something. But if you said something, you would be perceived this way.
And if I said something out loud, if I had put on my social media page, hey, look at the difference.
Yes.
Right? Then I would make the church look bad.
Yes.
And oh my goodness, you do not make the church look bad.
Yes.
Because enough people out there want to make the church look bad, and the church has the truth. So you have to not make that was the other thing. Don't make the church look bad.
Yeah.
So there's this loyalty to the church institution. Because what will they think? Yeah. And we need other people, because we're not well known, to think good of us and not think that we're a cult and all this other kind of stuff. And if I threaten their power, if it's seen as a threat to their power, what will the ramifications be? Yeah. Because I know there are times that my grandfather was, discipline's the wrong word, but he had consequences if he tried to speak out about something. And they would be like, oh, guess we don't need to pay you for this anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Or guess you don't need a raise this year. So petty, vindictive is very much how control is. Yeah. But also, when you are a pastor in that denomination, right, you're not supposed to have any other job unless you are intentionally a part-time or lay pastor, right? Your credentials are only really for that church system. Yeah. You are hired and fired at will. You're technically an independent contractor, which is how most pastors are hired, just in the U.S., regardless of denomination. So you don't get unemployment insurance. if you have anything like that, you can't file for unemployment. They have your livelihood in their hands. And so a lot of times people don't speak out about the injustices in the system that they see until they are nearing retirement or if they've left.
Yeah. Wow.
Again, they no longer have a hold for me because I now work as a hospice chaplain and am going another route even. So they have no power. They cannot take away my livelihood. They can say, you can never preach in one of our churches again. That's fine. I don't care.
Yeah.
But they don't have power over me, which is also why they refuse to give me my ministerial license right now because they don't have power over me.
And that's something they want.
Yeah. Because we need to be able to control you so you say the right things and you stay in your box. It got to the point where I was losing sleep. They brought in other women in leadership on the division level to talk to me because they didn't know how to talk to me. And her solution was to make yourself smaller, to not speak out when you see something wrong or discriminatory. Just make yourself smaller. Be quiet like a mouse.
Wow.
And just deal with it. Be glad you get paid the same as men.
Wow.
And let it go, which I can't do.
Yeah, just sit down and shut up.
No, that doesn't work.
Yes.
Because I'll embarrass somebody if I bring something to their attention that they didn't realize.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Or I'll call them racist or wrong or sexist in what I say. So just make yourself smaller. And I'm like, okay, this is bad. Yeah. I had fought earlier for a mentor because they were doing mentors for a female pastor mentor and had to look outside my region. And I found one and she was great. Helped validate that so I wouldn't gaslight myself about what was going on. She was even in a position where she could have conversations with some of those leaders to be like, hey, how can, as her mentor, how can I help her with things like that? And some of the things that she was hearing, it was just like, wow, you guys are not in the same realm of reality that we're on.
Yeah.
And when an opportunity came for me to move to Florida and become a hospital chaplain, as I finished up my clinical pastoral education, I took that. I'm like, okay, it's time for me to go. I need a clean break. It was still within an Adventist hospital.
That was my next question. Is it an Adventist system?
Because I had the right training and they only hire full-time chaplains that are Adventist. Yeah. So, hey, I got an in right there. It went well. The conference was happy to see me go because then I was no longer troublesome. My church today still is like, we wish you were our pastor again.
Well, it became your family.
Yeah. Because I saw the people that no one else sees.
Yeah.
It's not about who makes the most money. It's who's sitting in the corner quiet.
Yeah.
Right. And so I went down there for a year and a half, finished my pastoral education, did not have a good time because, again, it's still the same type of leadership. It was former youth pastors who were running the departments there. I'm sure they're wonderful people, but competent women are not something that they know how to deal with, especially if the skills that I have are ones that they don't. I have a lot of administrative skills, and that's one of my giftings. Yeah. And I'll often overfunction to compensate for the lack of organizational skills of men on my team, something I'm working on. Yeah. And so, but that apparently is intimidating. And so it just got really difficult and a lot of problems, just personal problems that went into work for everybody else. And everyone had a lot going. I mean, I went down there in 2021. So there was still like COVID going around and, people had PTSD from that. And some people did not do as much as others because they chose not to get vaccinated. So then they couldn't do as much of their job in the hospital, right? Things like that, which whatever your view is, I don't care. It's just meant that you couldn't do this piece of your job and someone else had to do it for you because you chose that, right? Whatever. That's fine. But then you have people your over and above becomes the expectation. And I was just burning out. Yeah. And when I tried to talk to HR or all that, it was somebody else's problem.
Oh, shoot.
Because of the way that they were set up. And I ended up then like, I just need to be close to my family, to my friends. helped my other friend who was chaplain down there, who brought me down there, get out.
Wow.
Because it's hard to get out of these systems that you've been trying so hard to prove your worth for. And like, I thought I was called to this. What does it look like to not be employed by the Adventist Church and still doing ministry?
Yeah. Yeah.
Will someone else accept what I have? Especially where we ended up not getting the backing of the Adventist Chaplaincy Ministries with our licenses because we were not men. And so we were held to different standards and different hoops we had to go through that men did not have to go through. But she is doing wonderful palliative care chaplaincy now in a hospital. Awesome. So proud of her. And then I came up here and I went into hospice. So
wow.
I had applied to like different colleges and some hospitals, but I didn't want on-call work. And my best friend died just before she was 40 on hospice at home from breast cancer. And I was with her family during the weeks for that. So I saw it. The grandmother that was your side of the family that knows as well, had died on hospice at my uncle's house the year that I graduated seminary. That's when they both died. So I knew what hospice was. Yeah. And so I made the move into hospice chaplaincy, and I think that's where I need to be.
Wow.
And I felt very fulfilled there. And again, 110% of the time, it is the people outside my faith tradition who have been the biggest supporters of me.
Even when you bring up your faith system, they don't
No.
push you away like you belong in another club. You're seen as Kristy, as a human. Yeah.
And those who have left the faith system are some of my biggest supporters and best friends. They've left the system, but they're still, no, this is this. So it's not like leaving the faith system is leaving faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once I realized that I would have to go through all these hoops to get a less acknowledgement, to get my ministry credentials, I started looking, okay, I can't do this anymore. I cannot be a part of the system. The system has gradually, maybe not gradually, but the last several years has become even more and more closed. So I say that my church left me, not so much me leaving my church. Yeah. Because what that broad spectrum of beliefs that they allowed, because originally we had no creed, has kept shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. They're hugely anti-LGBT. Many of my loved ones are a part of that community. Still staunchly sexist. Very have a problem with that. Things that were preferences. So the Adventist Church has been big on a health message, right? And hey, being vegetarian or vegan is probably better for you, but it's okay if you eat meat, right? Yeah. That's all right. And now, even from the top, they're like, well, you should really be vegan to be Adventist. And that's not there. Yeah. And, the other thing that really bothered me and bothers me is the idea. So when I was raised, we were taught that the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Seventh-day Adventists are part of God's remnant people, right? For Revelation and all that, and part of faith. So it's our mission to share and tell the truth because we're part of that remnant people. And because I have known people from all faith walks of life, I have always read that as there are God's remnant people, and they will be from all walks of faith, right? There is no remnant church, congregation, denomination. There are God's remnant people of faith. And more, the system, the global president of our church says the Adventist Church is the remnant church. That is a huge violation of my values. Where if you don't keep the Sabbath and hold to all our doctrines, there's not salvation for you.
Yeah. It's like salvation plus.
Yeah. And
that's a false gospel, really.
And so, and so it keeps getting narrower and narrower.
Yeah. And more controlled by man.
Right. Yeah. Very much. And that box.
Yeah.
You have to fit this box. And if you don't, you need to change yourself or you're lost.
Yeah. Yeah. According to the box makers. Yes. Yeah.
And so I started looking, and I do interfaith work. I work with people of all faiths and no faiths.
So you haven't completely dumped faith altogether.
No.
Yeah.
I still have my own faith, I'm a member at an Adventist church.
Mm-hmm.
I go visit sometimes. I preach sometimes for friends. I do not have a home congregation and community of any faith. I'm still figuring out what that looks like for me.
Yeah.
But I started a certification for interfaith chaplaincy, and I will be getting, so I'm almost finished with that, and will be getting ordained through them in October.
Wow, that's so...
because I was so afraid to go to a retreat that they had because I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
And I was so used to walking into rooms of Adventist pastors and already knew that I didn't. They were going to be, there was something, right?
Wow.
That I wouldn't feel safe, or I would feel judged, or already just being a woman. Am I the only woman in this room? Which I'm used to being. That's no big deal. You know, what is it? I'm not conservative enough, right? And so I was so scared. I walked in and it was like immediate acceptance. I'm like, I found my people.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Wow.
And so there is some community I get from them. And like I said, I'm excited to be on this journey and learning more about all these different faiths, which I had some knowledge anyway, because I love to read and study, but delving a little bit more deeper and spending a year with a different faith tradition. I just spent the last year with a pagan group and just getting to know them as people. And we have a lot of the same beliefs about how we can see the divine in nature every day. Let's connect about that.
Yeah.
And so I'm loving it. I feel supported, and I will be changing my credentialing. And, it's considered a transfer of ordination, and I will be ordained. There was a big discussion on whether I wanted to go through the ordination ceremony or just get the certificate. Yeah. And I decided it was worth going across the country to get ordained in October.
For you. Do you feel like you've found other people that want to think critically too? Like you say you found your people, but like, do they want to think critically? Do they want to think openly? Do they get stuck on their whatever walks of life they came from?
I think they do want to think critically, and they may be 100% sure of what their faith looks like, right?
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they're closing you off to your own faith experience.
That was my question. Yeah.
Yours doesn't have to match mine.
Yeah.
And also, interestingly enough, maybe not, a lot of them have gone through or experienced at some level, not all of them, spiritual abuse. So you might find like former evangelicals or people who had no faith background who are like, there's something and I need to explore what faith looks like.
Wow.
So there's the spiritual and not religious. There's the people who, they were raised with a Buddhist understanding or whatever, got Jewish. And so some of this was I had to relearn what interfaith meant. So when I first started, I was like, okay, I'm going to go do this, but does this mean that I can't say Jesus was the Son of God? Because that doesn't cover all faiths, but I can still hold on to my own faith. I don't have to negate everything I have to be interfaith. I can say, wow, yep, I believe Jesus was the Son of God. I can also say, I think this Buddhist practice is really awesome and I can honor it in you. And if something of that helps me, then great. And if it doesn't, that's okay too.
Wow.
Right? I can have appreciation for the truths in your faith. And I can admit that there are truths, which I've always believed that there are truths in other faiths. Yeah. And that mine was not the sole container for truth. So Adventists may have the truth, but we could learn a lot about loving people from maybe your Hindu and Buddhist friends.
Yes.
So that's where I am at now. I still have faith. There's still some of that loyalty and that upbringing. My family is still all in the church, but they are so supportive of me.
That's even, so wonderful.
Like some of my really conservative family members have helped me with tuition to pursue this because they see that this is the path, the only path for me to be doing the ministry that God is calling me to do and show up for, because the church prevented me.
Wow.
And there's really no other way. And I'm like, okay, so that's a God thing.
Absolutely.
Stay tuned for the second part of my interview with Pastor and Chaplain Kristy Hodson.
where we dig deeper into her faith walk. She talks about fitting in versus belonging, her struggles to be authentic in an environment that seemed to care more about appearances. We sift through the weeds of the loyalty issues she experienced in the face of blatant spiritual abuse and sexism. She talks more about the importance of critical thinking, asking questions, and wrestling with cognitive dissonance. If you have any questions or comments regarding this episode or any other episode of Soul Bruises, please send those to soulbruises@gmail.com. Until the second installment of my interview with Pastor and Chaplain Kristy Hodson, be human, be kind, be both.